Uh, Hello, SurfMD and friends and viewers. Um, in this video, we will update you on our progress of card game that we're doing for our final project called Arcanum. This week, we have managed to pull card lists from DB and generate it on the client, as opposed to last week, the all the cards were hard coded inside the client, and there was only one card. Next, we have also managed to implement card logic in the server for all the demo cards. In total, we have 15 demo cards, and all the card logic, such as dealing damage, gaining armor, dealing buffs and debuffs, healing, and everything else, is already handled on the server side. We are also able to generate and shuffle spell and element decks. We have two types of decks, as you might have recalled, and for both of these decks, we have managed to generate them from the server and also shuffle them so the order will be randomized. And then we also added UI polish on the playable or unplayable cards. And then we also, so for the unplayable cards, we added a tint so it will be darker to differentiate from cards that you're able to play and not able to play. For example, if you have enough elements for one card and not the other. Then there's also element counters. We have added a UI to count just how many, the exact number of elements that you have in your disposal. And we also have UI for armor, aside from last time we only have for health. And we also added an end turn button, and then we also added a turn marker to indicate whose turn, which player's turn it is. And then we also added the ability to input and show the player name. And we also did a lot of card design polish, such as the design on how information is displayed on the card. We also added description on the card itself on what it does. And as we said before, we added 14 other cards, and we added a logic in the server to automatically draw cards on each of the player's turn. And then we also do some database revamp. We moved all the game related info from the player collection to the game collection. And we added a mechanic where overdrawing a card, for example, if you have already the maximum cards in your hand and you attempt to draw again, uh, the card that is attempted to be drawn is burned and it's gone. And then we also display the last card played by the enemy, so there's an indication of what exactly the enemy plays against you. And finally, we also have a lot of bug fixes on card interactions. Now, for the specifics, I will let my friend Nicholas explain the server side.
Okay, as for the server side, um, we're
Wait,
building
it's
up
loading.
from
Okay. Now go.
okay, we're building up from the previous progress. So previously we only had one function, the test function we use, as you saw last week. We simply just place a card, and then this function would, this event it would be called. We built on that, and then we actually built the play card event for each player. So player 1, player 2, and we also added the end turn. So what happens is during the game, when it's a player's turn, they will be able to emit play card events, which will then check everything, the logic, all the playing of the card, the effects that the player receives, and the effects that the opponent will receive will be handled here. And it will also check for the winning conditions. Also, when the player can no longer play cards, it will be enforced by, of course, the server, but the client will also darken all the cards they have. So then the only choice they can do is then to end turn, which will then trigger this event, end turn. It will do all the processes when the turn ends, such as reducing the buffs and debuff counters or doing some burn damage. And it also does some server logic like adding the turn number, adding the round number, and then it changes the turn to the next player. It also checks if, let's say, a burn damage kills the player, or if the next player cannot draw any more cards, so then they automatically lose. Okay, so for the database, as you suggested, we moved everything related to the game into the actual game collection instead of having the player objects in the player collection. So now inside this one record, we have a lot of data, one object for each player, each of them containing all the details of the player, like their hand, their deck spell, their deck element, and also this card deck element, which is used to go around this bug we had where a player would run out of elements to play, and then this is actually the deck they will be playing with, and then this is like a template for their element deck. And then the current turn, we have some stats of the game, we have the order of the player, and then the current game state, is it playing or not. Yeah, that's it for the server side progress.
So now let's move on to the client side progress. So for the basic updates, so for the UI, I have added an armor UI and also this FX UI. So this FX UI is to display whether the player is affected by burn, lifesteal, or slow. If the player has no buff or debuff applied to them, then this will disappear individually. So let's say the player has no lifesteal, then this will not appear. The number here is the counter.
That will be seen in action on the demo later.
And I have added a database script. So now the game client directly connect to the MongoDB in order to retrieve the collection of cards. So unlike last week where I just spawned the cards using prefabs, now this empty prefab, this empty prefab data will be filled in from the card array that is retrieved from the database. So the way it works now is when Nico, the server, send the card list. So let's say the ID is 1. It will retrieve the card information of card ID 1 from the array and then place it into this card. And then as in spot before, now if the card is disabled, I will put like a black tin over the card to tell the player that the card cannot be played. Okay, I'm gonna go back first. And then now I also added like a feature here, so it shows the last card that the enemy player played. So for some visualization, we're gonna show you a demonstration of the game. So this is the login page now. So now you can enter your username and then it will be displayed in the game for both the player and the enemy. So I'm gonna connect it.
And I will also attempt to connect.
So as you can see here, now since I don't have enough elements to play this card, the cards is grayed out and I can and right now it just shows like whose turn is it. So right now it's Rino's turn. So it says enemy turn. Can I make a move, friend?
Okay.
Okay, so now since it's my turn, as you can see, since I have enough elements for Firebolt, the cards will not be grayed out. So if I play this card, so this card deals 3 damage to the enemy. So this is enemy health bar. You can see when I play this card, the enemy health will decrease to 17. And then if you're the player have like finished your turn, you can press this end turn to move so that the enemy can do their turn.
Okay, I will also pass this turn.
So okay, so I'm gonna display the effect. So this is an ignite card. It applies burn. So if I apply this card, Rino will receive Rino's burn icon will be activated. As you can see, this is the burn icon. So Rino has burn for 2 turns, and the burn damage is equal to the
Equal
amount
to
of
the
stack
stack.
it hacked. So if it's still 2 turn left, that means for the next turn, Rino will receive 2 damage, and then if it's 1 turn left, then Rino will receive 1 damage. So now I'm just
I
gonna
will take this damage at the end of my turn.
so now I'm gonna end turn first.
Okay. The debuff says 2, but then I play a card called Holy Water, which
Oh,
reduces the number of debuff by 1
how
by
about
1 turn.
So as you can see on my screen, you can see this is the last card that Rino played, Holy Water. Okay, you can move on now.
As I ended my turn, you can see that I took 1 damage there because I have negated 1 stack of the burn using holy water. And now I no longer have a burn debuff.
Before I forgot, so this is the remaining deck size. So it tells the player like how many spell cards in their deck they still have left. Because if it reaches 0, as Nico said in the server, you will lose.
So if you attempt to draw into an empty deck, you will lose. Not when you draw and the deck is 0.
Because I don't play any cards, I can just press enter.
Now I will attempt to damage NJ by using Firebolt. And I will try to defend myself using armor.
So as you
As
can
you
see,
can
since
see,
he used armor, he gets 4 armor. You can explain how armor works, Rin.
yeah. So the way armor works is that it's an additional health on top of the regular health. However, armor cannot be healed. Armor can only be gained, and damage towards armor cannot be lifestealed. Later, there will be a spell that can grant you lifesteal, which means that you can uh, gain health based on the damage that you deal towards the enemy health, not armor.
Okay, so now I'm gonna play a card called Rock Smash. So it applies 2 damage and also a slow debuff. So slow debuff amplifies the damage that the enemy receive by how much? I
50%.
forgot. 50%.
1.5.
50%.
One and a
Yeah.
half, yeah. So 50%. Wait,
Yeah.
50%. So let's say I apply Rock Smash. And so this quicksand is for damage, right? So because I apply slow to Rino, he will now receive 6 damage. Oh, as you can see, the
As you
damage
can see,
was eaten by the armor.
yeah, it is first absorbed by the armor and then the health.
Now I'm gonna apply damage again and burn to Rino.
I'm running low on health here, so I will use a spell called Healing Rain. Healing Rain heals for a lot of health, but as you can see, it also heals the enemy.
So okay, I have life steal now, but I'm not gonna use it because I don't have any resources. So oh yeah, before we go on, so each player can only have a total of 10 elements in their pool. As you can see, so they can only have 10 of these. That way, player cannot stack up on like a particular element.
That is 10 in total. So if it's 2 fire, 3 earth, and then 1 water, then you combine that. That's 6. So then if you add more water until 10, then you can't get any more.
I'm gonna check first. Do I have enough for life steal and both of these? Nope. So I'm just gonna use mudslide and supernova, and I win. I
Wow, massive damage.
We didn't get to
display the life steal.
display lifesteal, but the way lifesteal works is that um, it only heals you based on the damage you directly deal to the enemy. It doesn't lifesteal off of effects such as burn. So if the enemy has burn and you yourself have the lifesteal effect, you don't heal from the damage that the enemy takes at the end of the turn.
And as Rino said
One
So
before,
more
only
thing.
direct spells.
Yeah, one more
Direct
thing
damage.
about armors is that it doesn't negate effects of burn. So when you apply a burn effect to your enemy, you can actually eat through your enemy's health with dealing any damage to the armor. So if they're thick with armor, you can just burn them.
so as Rino said before, uh, life steal doesn't proc on armors. It's only procs on like raw health. I think that's it for our week progress. Thank you for watching, Sir FMD.